I want to talk about something that might be a mistake that people make and that they don't understand, but let's talk about the policy limits and the coverage, how much they're going to receive if they, get into that accident. What is the right amount for coverage on a policy for a business owner? How should they go about calculating something like that? And, should they be looking just to lower their monthly price on their premium to save some money on the coverage or to lower the coverage amount?
Uh, I think we're probably talking about like liability
Hmm.
exposures, most likely. Like, okay,
And contents, building contents, and replacement value of a building that burns down, or, how do you,
yeah, gotcha. So I'll start with the liability exposures. Um, I'm a proponent of having as much in place as reasonably possible, and what I mean by that is, depending on the type of business, there's going to be certain limits within their general liability policy that they can get through the carrier they're working with. Okay. So the per occurrence limit. So if somebody walks into my agency and they slip and fall and get hurt, how much liability do I have in place for that specific occurrence, right? That event. And then for a contractor, what is my aggregate limit? And that's a separate limit from the occurrence limit. And that means what is my total liability coverage for the policy period, the policy term for that year, right? And also with carriers, there's going to be a maximum on the per occurrence limit and a maximum on the aggregate limit. And typically that's suitable, that's fine. You're talking about a $1 million occurrence, $2 million aggregate, or a $2 million occurrence, $4 million aggregate. And it's worth the conversation with the business owner to look at what their exposures are. My exposures for liability are far less than if I run a manufacturing facility, right? From a lot of different ways. So that's the conversation on the front end, is kind of what makes sense, what's suitable for the business owner. And if they're a contractor, like a lot of your clients, Martin, a lot of times they move those limits because somebody's making them do it. If they want to put a bid in on this particular job, if they want to secure this certain bid, then instead of 2 million, they have to have 4 million. And that's when you get into the potential for, if my current policy as a business owner, if I can't go to those limits with that carrier, then maybe I look into getting a commercial umbrella. Those are kind of rare circumstances, but it usually makes sense just to increase the limits within your current general liability policy, because most of the time we can get to the level that is A, suitable, and B, satisfies whoever you're trying to secure the job from. And again, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but making sure that my liability is appropriate for my type of business. So I can have premises liability that covers me at my cabinet shop, but I need general liability that will follow me to the job site and protect me in case the work I've done does some other damage to that home, to that property. And then from the building ownership piece, if they want replacement cost coverage, we call it. And what that means is, do I want coverage in effect that will rebuild my building with new construction in a similar way that it's currently constructed? Then we have a software system. We put in the details of the building and it spits out a number that's close in the current market to what it would take to rebuild that structure. And again, those things are worth reviewing each year. And most carriers have what they call roll-ups, where if my building was insured for $300,000 last year, my renewal this year may be insured for $325,000, right? Because the cost of construction, well, lately has gone way up, but traditionally, kind of with the cost of living, it'll float up a few percent each year. So most carriers will, if you're on a replacement cost policy, they'll keep up with that. The alternative to that is, if I get a smoke and deal on my building, then I may not, as a business owner or a building owner, want to pay the premiums for replacement costs, right? So this $300,000 replacement cost building, maybe I paid $120,000 for that building, so I only want to insure it for that $120,000, and that's usually fine. But the maintenance piece is keeping up with the increasing value of that building, or did I dump 75 grand into rehabbing it, right? So those are the kind of checkpoints annually or sooner if they've done some kind of major rehab. And then the contents piece, the business personal property, it's whatever you tell me. I mean, you know more about what you spent on your stuff than I do. So we generally just kind of rely on the business owner. Most of us know what we dropped on desks and computers and equipment and so forth.